This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, in the Holy Scriptures, and it reads, "And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexities in the seas and waves warring."
كيلو لحمة نجيب فيه كيلو هلا حبة عين كيلو
الدولار صار ب 65,000 عم يغلى
لحظة ما تكسر العلم يا عم كسروا
ولا من لقمة عيشكم ولا من خبزكم.
قرأوا كل اللي بنوك لأنت هدول اللي بنوك هلا لا انتم ما شغلتين لنا
And as you've seen, Salakia, Shalom. I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakar Kadash. Double honors to the elders for preaching his word truthfully and sincerely. And Shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And I say Shalom to you Akim out there. So as you seen in that little video clip right there, a minute and 20 seconds, they had a protest over there in Lebanon once again, because they doing, over the years, Lebanon was dealing with economic crisis with the economic of the central banks and stuff like that, and they doing protests of this. And as I mentioned, I did a video on this. I had mentioned about, throughout last year, there have been like robbery attempts, people trying to get their money out of the banks due to the harsh economic crisis of the Lebanese people, what they're, currently going through, And then not long ago, I did a video, I said day before yesterday, of, I believe it was the United States or Western countries have used economic sanctions on people that's associated and affiliated with the Lebanese central banks. I believe because they think they had some type of support of the organization of Hezbollah. So that shows you that, why would you use harsh economic sanctions on a nation that's already in economic turmoil, And as I just want to add a note to that. But I'm gonna read this news article right here. It says Lebanese protesters denounce banks as thieves as currency hits a new low. And it says the Lebanese pound plunged to nearly 56,000 to the US dollar on the payroll market. As a result, the financial and the commercial markets witness a turmoil. And it says the Lebanese protesters blocked roads and burnt tires on Wednesday near the central bank in Beirut of Lebanon as the weakening local currency plunged to a new low against the dollar. The Lebanese pound, which have already lost more than 95% of its value since 2019, plunged to nearly 56,000 to the US dollar. because I believe Lebanon, they do currency trade with the United States as well too. It says to plunge 95% of its value since 2019 plunged to nearly 56,000 to the US dollar on the preliminary market. As a result, the financial and commercial markets witnessed a turmoil. The collapse in the value of the national currency prompted anger activists to take the streets in areas of Beirut, southern Lebanon, and Boklik, Ekkar, and the eviction of the Palestinian refugee camps. It says at the local currency has not divide non-survive fuel prices, if I pronounce that word right, has soared, reached about 18 for 20 liters of petrol. And it says the American turmoil in the petroleum market has prompted several sectors, including fuel stations, to close due to the inability to keep up with the changing rates. Fuel stations shut down on Wednesday, and the sectors have called on the Ministry of Energy to issue a list of fuel prices in dollars and to give citizens the option to pay either Lebanese pound or dollars according to the currency market price. George Brack, a member of the owner of the gas station syndicate, told Arab News the fluctuation of the dollar exchange rate has created difference in the price of fuel, which prompt us to close out stations, but it is a temporary closing depending on prices in dollars. We buy fuels in dollars and sell in Lebanese pounds, and the station stock has a value in dollars. Lebanese banks has imposed draconian restrictions and withdrawals since the country's economic collapse 3 years ago, initially denying people their savings and prompting anger. Right, just like the whole year of 2022, you've been seeing that anger of these protesters, robbery attempt these banks, so they can get their money out of the banks because they're going through harsh economic functions. You had one story of last year I had covered that, and many other brothers did as well too, about there was a couple of people they needed that money out of the bank to like provide for their families and stuff like that. So and it was people of the citizens of their country, they was angry at the banks, institutions, and stuff like that due to the collapse of the economy, and they feel like we had to get our money out of the banks because their money might be taken during with the high interest rates and the current collapse of the economy, slow paces of the jobs and stuff like that. People having their retirement plan money possibly being taken. That's why you had anger protests and stuff like that, during that year of 2022. Now you got it in 2023, as it's continuing on. And I'm going to read that again. It says, Lebanese banks have imposed draconian restrictions on withdrawals since the country's economic collapse 3 years ago, initially denying people their savings and prompted, right, because people have savings or retirement funds, because they need those funds just to get by, to help them and their families out, like medical expenses and stuff like that. So that caused a anger and stir with the citizens of the country, due with the collapse with the economy currently right now in Lebanon, It says essentially denying people their savings and prompting public anger. Protesters near the central bank headquarters labeled bank thieves, raising banners calling for justice for depositors and denouncing the policy of the governor of the banquet du Liban, right? Samlik, if I pronounced that right, in the banks. Samlik is currently being investigated on suspicions of financial misconduct, including money laundering and embezzlement. Protesters demand to recover deposits in full, reject rules that allows them to withdraw 800 from their frozen cash, half of which in dollars, and the other half in Lebanese pound. One protest accused the state of being a partner in ignoring the exhaustion of people who died at the gates of hospitals because they are unable to pay the cost of their hospitalization and buy medication. The new U.S. sanctions were imposed on Lebanese. Yep, just like I mentioned. Yep, and I did a video lesson on that the day before yesterday. And it says the new U.S. sanctions were imposed on Lebanese money exchange Hassan Makloud and his two sons on Tuesday for links to Hezbollah. Meanwhile, the U.S. has announced a $72 million in aid to Lebanon to cover security personnel's salaries for 6 months in a joint program with the UN. General Joseph, Lebanon's army chief, said the international community's willingness to preserve military institutes provide that will not allow Lebanon to collapse on the security front. The impact and consequences of the Lebanese collapse are not limited to it as a country, but will have indirect impact on regional security involvement. Dorothy Shell, a U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, said the temporary support is to help the heroic soldiers and service members while we are pressing the political leaders to elect a president of the Republic of in the Republic, form a government and implement immediate economic reforms. Melanie Houston, the resident representation of the UN Development Program in Lebanon, said security, stability, and rapid implementation of reform are the basis of conditions for development in Lebanon, and transparencies and accountability are essential for a project of this magnitude of importance. Luke 21 and 25. I'll read it again for edification's sake. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexities, and the seas raving roaring. And second Esdras, while you currently got that protest going on in Lebanon, which has started as of Wednesday, because you know the time zones are different from the United States and the Middle East. This is the book of Second Esdras 9 and 3. Therefore there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars in the people of the world, right? Uproars in the people in the world, with the protests increasing around the world, you know. Second Esdras. And as you seen in that video clip I showed, I believe it was 1 minute and 20 seconds, they was burning a paper of a person. I don't know, he was a leader of their country, and they kind of oppose what his values of representing their country. I don't know if he's a person from their country or somebody outside of their country. And then they was doing a protest over that as well too, along with the protest of the bank institutions of freezing their money and withholding their money as well too, as they dealing with the continuing economic collapse of their economy, you know. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor their princes, and courts of their actions shall stand in their power. Right. With these banks, with these bank institutions of the citizens of Lebanon, they in protest of they feel like their savings being froze, their 401k savings from their retirement plan savings, savings that they had throughout the years while they was working or just saving, and they kind of need those money to withdraw, because they need it for apply themselves to have food and security and stability, while they're going through a harsh collapse of an economic over there in Lebanon. That's why you're seeing sedition among men over there. They should not regard their kings nor their offense. They should not regard their kings nor their princes, the ones that's in rulership, and not handling this situation that's currently going over there in Lebanon, with the bank's institution and the collapse of the economy, And that's what you're seeing, the uprisings and protests of that, like I just mentioned before, And so with that, hopefully this was edifying of this recent news article that came out of Lebanon of protests. Lebanese protests denounce banks and thieves as a currency hits a new low as of January 25th, 2023. And so with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Wakar Double honors to the elders for preaching his word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered in the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom.